the IVF case, before we get into the Fort Worth ISD, literally is hemorrhaging like has hemorrhaged thousands and thousands of people over the past several years and 5 years. It's unbelievable. And where are they all going? And why are they getting pulled out? We're going to talk about that coming up in just a couple minutes on the Chris Crock Show, News Talk 820 WBAP, now on FM at 93.3. So IVF, there's too much. Texas IVF patients scramble and wake at the Alabama decision. One woman from Flower Mound saying she's got all these IVF embryos in her freezer and she doesn't know what to do with them. Maybe you shouldn't have done it. Not condemning you, just saying I don't think it's a good idea to do it, and I think the reason why there's so much controversy is because it probably shouldn't be done to begin with. Do you think IVF should be something people stay away from, as I do? And do you think the reason there's so much controversy about IVF is because it's something we shouldn't be doing to start with? 800-288-WBAP is our number, 800-288-9227. And I'm not having some righteous thing here or some religious thing. It's just a matter of, or faith thing. It's just a matter of, I don't think you should do it because of, listen to all we're hearing about. Maybe it's because you shouldn't do it to begin with. One person saying, once I started this process, I didn't expect to go to round 2, didn't expect to go to round 3, round 4, round 5. I definitely didn't expect to be sitting here essentially empty-handed and trying to navigate laws and all this while building my family. Well, again, I'm not trying to be negative on her. I'm just saying maybe she shouldn't have done it to begin with, and then none of this would be an issue for her. And I'm not even getting into the legal aspect or the faith aspects. Again, I'm just saying, dude, if you have all these issues and you don't know what to do with these embryos, that's your big clue right there. One woman gave birth to her son in June after 2 years of IVF. She said the Alabama ruling is an example of extreme policy. Well, I mean, depending. I mean, if you have two parties and one party thinks it's a life and doesn't want the baby or the embryo being, discarded or terminated, whatever you want to call it, then maybe you shouldn't have done it. The unfortunate thing, says one mom about the ruling here, is it's not only instilled in a lot of fear across the board, but also in particular fear for families like mine, where the future of their families hangs in the balance. One woman spent between $20,000 and $30,000 on egg retrievals, and the December embryo implantation was ultimately unsuccessful. Doesn't know what she'll do with the embryos that aren't viable, says Dallas Morning News. It costs her $1,000 a year to store. Woo! You can donate them to science. I don't know. There's certain things they want to do or don't want to do. I wouldn't, if they would accept the donations. Would you want to give your embryo to science, quote unquote? God knows what they would do with it. I think especially with the vaccination stuff and all the lies from our CDC and, everything, the government. Oh, dude. Anyway, yuck. No thanks. Hard pass. Don't do as my advice, my piece of wisdom on that. 800-288-WBAP is our number, 800-288-9227. Now, Fort Worth ISD is cutting a lot of money from its budget. They're hemorrhaging students. They have been for 5 years. And let me share with you what I got from the Star-Telegram and WFA TV Channel 8 in their coverage of this. Number one, for 5 years, the Star-Telegram says Fort Worth has been one of the fastest growing cities in the country. Okay? So Fort Worth is booming. We all know this, right? But yet, and they've welcomed tens of thousands of residents a year, says the Star-Telegram. But in the same period, where thousands and thousands, tens of thousands of people have moved in, tons of students have left. Thousands have left. Fort Worth ISD is one of the hardest hit in the nation with enrollment, people declining enrollment and fleeing from the district. They're not moving out of Fort Worth. They're just not going to school there anymore. A growing number of them, says the Star-Telegram, and it's a broad national trend, they say, but also tremendously in Fort Worth as well. Growing number of students are leaving for charter schools, private schools, and homeschooling. Fort Worth ISD went from 87,000. I'm going to round this, okay? Fort Worth went from 87 students in Fort Worth ISD in 2016 to 72,000 in 2023. Dude, they went from 87,000 to 72,000 from 2016 to 2023. Can you believe this? Look at this, you guys. Dude, a 17% drop in school students. So they lost 15,000. They lost 15,000 students in Fort Worth ISD, while the city gained tens of thousands of new residents. Put your mind around that, guys. Wrap your mind around this. So from 2016 to 2023, you're a 7-year period, guys. In 7 years, when tens of thousands of people moved into Fort Worth, 15,000 left the district. I want to ask you a question on this, and I can't wait to tell you about my personal experience in this. Have you pulled your child from your school district, from your public school? Have you pulled your child from your public school in these last several years? And if so, why? I really want to hear from you on this. 800-288-WBAP is our number, 800-288-9227. And do you recommend folks pull their kids from our public schools now? Even if they're in a really good district, maybe you do. And then what would you recommend parents do as an alternative to public schools? 800-288-WBAP is our number, 800-288-9227. Chime in right now. I want to hear from you. Have you pulled your child from your school, your local school district, in these last several years, and why, if so? And do you recommend folks pull their kids from our public schools? And what would you recommend parents do as an alternative to public schools? 800-288-WBAP is our number. So here's what they say, one of the many reasons they cite in the Star Telegram's 5-page lengthy article. Growing competition from charter schools is a big one. Charter schools are great. Do you have any idea how successful and empowering so many of our African American and Latino students who are at a disadvantage and were chained to these horrific schools that are dominated by the teachers' unions and wokeness and leftist and DEI and St. George Floyd, blessed be his name, worship and all this garbage in this critical race theory garbage? Of those who transferred out of Fort Worth ISD, 85% went to charter schools. Wow. Many of them also went to homeschooling, pulled it into homeschooling. I'm going to tell you about what we did and why, if I can do it, you can do it. But I want to hear from you. Have you pulled your child from your public school in these last several years? And if so, why? And do you recommend folks pull their kids from our public schools now? And what would you recommend parents do as an alternative to public schooling? Boy, I can't wait to really get into this coming up next on the Chris Crock Show. News Talk 820 WBAP and now on FM at 93.3. News Talk 820 WBAP, now on FM at 93.3. Make it a preset. Okay, Fort Worth ISD, this blows me away, guys. In 6 years, Fort Worth ISD lost 15,000, 7 years, they lost 15,000 students in the 6 years prior to 2020, prior to 2024. So they lost 15,000 students in 6 years leading up to 2023. Let me rephrase it. It sounds a little confusing. They lost 15,000 students from 2016 to 2023, okay? That's 17% of their entire school district. Meanwhile, at the same time, as you and I know, tens of thousands of people moved into Fort Worth. So why do you think so many thousands are choosing to pull their kids out of Fort Worth ISD? And have you pulled your kid out of school in these past several years? And if so, why? And do you recommend people pull their kids out of public schools? What would you recommend parents do as an alternative to public schools? 800-288-WBAP, 800-288-9227. Before I continue on with the story, and a story from WFA TV Channel 8 on this as well, I want to tell you, this first story I was mentioning was in the Star Telegram, but I want to tell you that my wife made a choice that I thought was crazy. I went along with it too, though. I mean, we're partners, but I thought it was nuts at first. She decided to pull our child out of the middle of first grade. from public schooling, and I didn't think it was a good idea. I didn't like it, but she had done a lot of work. She was ready for it, and I believed her. And it was the best decision we've ever made in our lives. I am blown away by what has happened. I can tell you, when my son, his teacher said he's very smart and he does very well, but he is constantly disrupting the class, standing up, saying, "I'm bored, I'm bored, I'm bored." And so that, plus my wife was watching a couple of neighborhood young kids, little ones, and he came home from school one day in kindergarten, which I believe was half day, and I believe maybe it was all day there. I can't remember. It's been years. It's been more than 20, like 20, 19 years or something like that. No, 15 years. Sorry, 15 years. But, and he says, "Mom, you're homeschooling these kids. Why can't you teach me?" And that really grabbed her. So my son, all these years later, is a straight A student. His GPA, he's made the dean's list most semesters, and he's gotten at least 50 to 60% of all of his college tuition here in state has been paid for by scholarships. Everything, the tuition, books, everything, because he's wildly successful, and he got a scholarship as well towards his Japanese semester. He's going to be studying in Japan. He's leaving in about 3 weeks. He's also the Japanese language proficiency test, that the only one that's recognized by the Japanese government that you can take in this country, is done. You have to go to Houston for it in this region. I think it's because the embassy's in Houston. And a 5 is the beginner. Okay, 1 is expert, perfection. Japanese language is the second hardest language in the world. Mandarin apparently is the first one. The intonations, which I didn't even know about that, there's about 9 intonations in Japanese language, I think. So like the same word with a different tone can mean different things. Apparently in Mandarin there's 11 or 12 intonations or whatever it's called. That's insane. So he is he just qualified for the 3rd level. He's right in the middle between beginner and perfection. He's a 3 out of 5. And he's now studying for his N2, which is insane. And he's now going to be going to Japan. He got another scholarship to go there in partnership with one of our local universities here in North Texas, public universities. And he's just wildly successful, and I couldn't be more proud of him. He's an Eagle Scout. I mean, it's insane. He has far exceeded anything I've ever done at this age and anything his mom's ever done, and we are so dang proud of him. My daughter was homeschooled from day one by her insistence. We would always pull him aside and say, "Hey, junior high, do you want to go back into want to go into public schools? Are you interested? Do you want to take a tour?" No. For high school, I really tried to get him in. We moved into a great school. We live in a great school district, and the high school is like the crown jewel of this great school district we live in. And I really wanted him to at least go look at it. He's like, "Nope, I don't want." My daughter didn't want to go either. So I'm like, "Okay." They're both dual credit from community college, and she's dual credit. She got, I think she's gotten 4 A's and 1 B so far. And so anyways, she is in the middle of her freshman year, I believe, or something like that. Anyways, it doesn't matter with us. She's going to be getting her 2-year now. She wants to go to a 4-year, and then she wants to get her master's in psychology, she believes. So I couldn't be prouder. So this is what it has gotten us, homeschooling. I think it's a great idea to pull, not because we should ditch the schools. I think there needs to be salt and light in our schools too. But I am extremely happy to see how many people have pulled out of Fort Worth ISD. You know why? Because their woke policies, their DEI, their St. George Floyd, blessed be his name, worship of a man who died of a drug overdose, the insane leftist critical race theory and sex education for radical transgender stuff, they are making our children into mindless goons in Fort Worth ISD and in Dallas ISD and at many of our public schools in the suburbs. 800-288-WBAP is our number. Rick in Walnut Springs, you're on News Talk 820 WBAP and now on FM at 93.3. Hey, Rick.
Hey, how are you?
Good, sir. How are you?
Good. So my children are adults. I have a son and his wife who live in Benbrook.
Mm-hmm.
I have grandchildren. The grandchildren are already being taught at home. My son was a language major in college, and his son is already learning Greek and biblical Hebrew.
Wow.
And the time is young when they come. But along those lines, I watched my daughter-in-law's two sisters, her half-sisters, who grew up in Allen, Texas. They got a great education at Allen High School, but the wokeism, the pronouns, and everything else that they consider right, my grandchildren will not go to Fort Worth schools. They'll be taught at home or maybe at charter school. We have a little church that we go to with like 80 members. I've been here from California for 7 years now, and I would say well over 90% of the kids in there are homeschooled or go to a certain charter school because of the wokeism.
So your number one reason that you see in your family and in others pulling out of school districts like Fort Worth and homeschooling or doing charter schools is because of this, the cultural Marxism that they're teaching and social Marxism they're teaching, and training up a whole generation, a second generation of goons that are doing insane things on our college campuses and all over this country, right? Like self-immolating for Israel or against Israel, for Hamas, right?
Yeah. Well, out of schools, and it all started to decline from there on out.
Last part? I'm sorry, you clipped out there for a second. What was your last part there you just made? Point?
I said number one reason for our kids to stay out is the public schools took God out of schools.
Right.
And all chaos has broke loose since.
I agree.
And the decline, yeah.
Rick, great call tonight. I appreciate it. Great to hear from you. One mom whose daughter had a disability was failing horribly in Worth ISD. Then she went to a brand new school, charter school, and it was so new. Mom was just totally worried, and instead she made quick progress, and her daughter is now excited to get up and go to school every day, and she's excited about reading, which used to be a chore. She now wants to learn. She wants to be able to stand up and show her work. Doesn't that make you feel good? It puts goosebumps on my arms. So, dude, join the club if you want. I don't want my kids being raised up to thwack off the genitals, hate themselves, hate their country, hate their cops, think everybody's a racist. No, sir, no way. Fort Worth ISD, by the way, because of this, now cutting its staff, its budget. Superintendent says, I'll give you those details next, along with, oh, dude, I can't wait to get into this. The gigantic rookie who is now bringing fighting back to hockey. Dude, you're going to hear 3 of his brawls. It's insanity. We'll talk about that next. Fort Worth ISD to cut staff, reduce budget. So this is from WFAA TV Channel 8. And they're reducing their budget, cutting its staff amid declining enrollment, resulting in a loss of local, state, and federal dollars. And you know what I put here? Good. Because if you tell our children that a boy can be a girl and a girl can be a boy, and to cut off their genitals and force them to use pronouns and lie about somebody's actual sex, and you tell our sons that St. George Floyd, blessed be his name, was killed or murdered when he died of a drug overdose, or to worship a felon who was convicted of putting a gun to a pregnant woman's belly to hold her up. That's what St. George Floyd, blessed be his name, did. Was convicted of doing in Houston. It's just and do all the wokeism and sex ed, teaching our children to do bad stuff. Well, this is what you're going to get. We don't want our children raised like this. And you have insane leftist school board members who we played that. Remember that crazy woke leftist school board was on the Diversity, Equity, Inclusion Council, whatever that was, who left a vile, profanity-laden, yelling, swearing, and threatening message on a woman's voicemail. I can pull it up and play it for you. She said, F you, Carrie Reimer, and we played that ad infinitum. Hispanic woke leftist lady, crazed leftist activist, threatening constituents. That's what social Marxism and cultural Marxism and leftist Marxism and godless communism does. It destroys you. It subjugates you. It threatens you. And it threatens you with violence is okay. in the case of Hamas killing and raping Jewish women and children and babies, murdering them, beheading them, because oppressor oppressed. That's what they teach in Fort Worth ISD. That's what they've taught. That's what they teach in DISD. And in a lot of our school districts, we've seen Dr. Wokefield. Remember him? The disgraced former principal at, where was he at? Just look up, his real name is Wakefield. He's like a martyr that last time I checked, he's still unemployed because he's a leftist martyr who complains about leftist wokeism stuff, and he's a victim. What's his name? Dr. Wakefield? What school was that? Grapevine? No, GCISD, right? GCISD? Anyways, here, let's see. Dr. Wakefield. I don't know his first name. Wakefield, fired principal. Texas. Here you go. It'll come right up. Texas principal forced to resign. Blah, 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 blah. I call him Dr. Wokefield. CRT, what school was it? It was Colleyville. It was GCISD. I was right. It'll give us the high school's name, but it was Grapevine Colleyville ISD. Yeah, he was absolutely canned because he was a disaster and is a disaster. He taught his little wokelets, professional activists who walked out and did all this garbage for him. Yeah, you could take that and shove it up your butt. And go take a crap in a lake. You're not going to poison our kids. We're going to throw you out as they did there. I'm proud of what they did there, throwing Dr. Wokefield out. And that's one of the reasons why these schools are hemorrhaging, and I have no sympathy for them whatsoever. And by the way, you know who really gets screwed out of this? A lot of poor and underprivileged children who their lives are ruined by leftists who destroy schools so that good families leave. Decent families leave. And there's a lot of wonderful, good families that are poor and troubled that whose parents still love them or mother still loves them, and they pull their kid out too. God bless you. Do it. Break the chains, man. Okay. Gigantic rookie bringing fighting back to hockey. This is in the Wall Street Journal today. It's like a 2.5-page story. It's funny. I'm going to play the audio first, but, well, actually, real fast. New York Rangers are first-place team, but they hired a 21-year-old massive goon, a giant. Matt Rempe joined the New York Rangers from the minors just 10 days ago. And he's already been in 3 fights. The dude he got into a fight before the game even started on his first debut in the NHL. He got into a fight, a nasty fist fight, which I'll play the audio of you here in a second, before the game even started, before the puck dropped. And he is massive. I mean, he towers over other players. He's probably 6 inches and 50 to 100 pounds or more. He's 6'7". He's a Philistine. He's Goliath. Yeah. In 10 days, he's racked up 32 penalty minutes, guys. In 10 days since his rookie debut. How many games are in 10 days? Like 8, 7? Would you look up the New York Rangers schedule just to see the game, how many games they've played, producer Garrett, for the New York Rangers? How many games have they played starting February 18th? Like, include February 18th if there was a game they played then in the NHL, the New York Rangers, and then count how many games they played between the 18th and today. Probably about 7, maybe 8. 6! In 6 games, he's gotten into at least 3 fist fights, at least 3 huge ones, which we'll hear about in a second, and 32 penalty minutes in 6 games. Divide that. What's 6 divided by 32? 30 would be 5. He's got 5.05 penalties. 5.05 penalties per game. One goon who just started 10 days ago. He's 6'7", native of Calgary. I was at Cheesecake Factory last night. I was getting some photos with people and rocking the black eye, he said. It's pretty cool. All right. I'm going to share some details in a minute here, but here we go. Here's some of the audio. Here's the questions I want to ask for you. Are you okay with NHL players bringing back their legendary fist fights. Apparently, it hasn't been as brutal and bad as it was back in the day. Are you okay with the NHL players bringing back their legendary fist fights? My dad grew up a Blackhawks fan and will always be one, and he had season tickets up until they went leftist more and the prices went up and he couldn't go to as many games, and it became too much of a hassle for them. But I'm always going to be a Blackhawks fan, even though I don't follow them like I used to, just because of being from there originally. But I am also a Stars fan. I've been in many Stars games, and I would have to tell you that I never played hockey as a youth. I played baseball and football, and gymnastics. But I actually really enjoy. I mean, football can be fun to watch too. Trust me on that. I've been to some NFL games, including the Cowboys. But I really enjoy the Stars games. I've been to several of them with my family, and we always enjoy it. Okay, before I get more details on this, let me play some. This is the first brawl. This is the first game the man played as a rookie, and he beat the hell out of some guy literally before the game started.
Here's Matt Rempe, NHL debut. Hello!
Wow, a fight before they even dropped the puck. First time on the ice of the National Hockey League, and he is squaring off with Matt Martin. And he is a big man. The 21-year-old is 6'7", 241 pounds.
And he's going against a veteran, one of the toughest guys in the league in Matt Martin. Both of them know what's going to happen, and they are trading him here.
Martin 6'3", 215. Not often they just nod and say, okay, that's enough. Not often that Martin's giving up that much size.
Dude, he's, what did he say, 6'3" or 6 foot? He's six, but the other guy, he said, hold on, let's see, hold on. We'll do it when we come back again. I have two others. Like, the dude, all he does is beat the hell out of people. Are you okay with NHL players bringing back their legendary fist fights in a major way? And here's another one I want to add on some other sports that are kind of brutal. Does MMA fighting get too violent for you and too nasty? What about boxing? And do you think these are brutal sports, and does their brutality keep you from watching? 800-288-9227, 800-288-WBAP. What about women? I'm going to give you some stories on this and some of my take that might surprise you on the violence and what I think about it. Next on the Chris Crock Show, News Talk 820 WBAP, and two more brawls from this guy in just 6 games. All that next on the Chris Crock Show, 800-288-9227 on News Talk 820 WBAP, and now on FM at 93.3.
The possibility of a heavyweight battle right here. Delorier and Rempe sizing each other up.
This started in warm-up.
Rivalry. Matter of fact, Ray, I don't remember the last time I've seen a scrap like that in an NHL game. And the crowd is going crazy.
Well, Delorier is screaming to the crowd. He's cut over the eye. Him and the rookie, Matt Rempe, started this in...
It's just hysterical, guys. Isn't that fun to listen to that? Listen, as I'm listening to this, I'm like, yeah! I watched it, I'm like, holy crap. It didn't bother me, and I think the reason why it doesn't bother me is because as nasty as it is, it looks less harmless. It looks less harmful when they have helmets on. In one of these, there's one more fight. I played to the first one. I might play it again. It's pretty wild. Even though I know you can't see it, but you can hear it. And I'm going to play the third one. This rookie guy who's gigantic, the Wall Street Journal says, he's 6'7", and he's about 7 feet in skates. Holy crap. 7 feet tall in skates! Mongoloid! Goliath! A Philistine is approaching. A monster. That's freaking the Jolly Green freaking giant. The dude has had 32 minutes of penalty in just his first 6 games. On the first game, before the puck even was dropped, he got into a fight. I don't like this guy per se, but I think it's hysterical. Let's hear the third one. Come on now. Here we go.
One-time first-round draft pick of Buffalo. We've got Rempe already involved with Matthew Olivier. They talked in pregame warm-ups. Rempe's got 6 inches on Olivier. But boy, Olivier, he's throwing some haymakers. Poor Rempe, he gets challenged every game. Uh-oh.
Wait, poor Rempe gets challenged every game. He goes in and starts fighting before the first game even starts. He wants to do this, and he hams it up in the press. Dude, good times. Good times. I love this. I think it's hysterical, and it's a riot, and it's just too funny to me and too outrageous and in like a Roman Greco or go to Greco-Roman times or whatever, in the circles. But in this case, it's not macabre. It's not too much for me. I don't mind hockey fighting. Even when in the first fight, I think it was, or the second one, both of their helmets flew off. Or I think it might have been the third one, actually, where the guy was like 6 inches shorter than him, but he was dang tough, and he got in a lot of good jabs. This is craziness. Okay, so the NHL in the 90s, the Journal reports, there was nearly 1 fight per game, okay, in the 90s. But lately, this past season, there's only been 1 every 4 games. 1 fight every 4 games. I would say that my experience has that, too. I've not seen a fight. I would like to see a fight with the on the ice. Now, MMA fighting. I have trouble with it. I'm not here to condemn you, but I don't like it. I think it's just too dang gory. It's nasty. And I'm not here to say don't do it or don't watch it. I can't. Look, I've got some good friends that like it, and if they invite me, I'll go with them to watch the game, or in their house or at a bar, sports bar, or whatever. I'll watch it with them because I'll go with a good friend. I love my good friends, and I like to go do things with them, even if I'm not interested. I would go, but I don't know if I could do it. I don't know if I could keep watching it because it's just too nasty. The women that do that, I can't. Well, I don't think I can watch that. I can't. I mean, again, I'd have to sit there and watch for a long time if I was going to keep watching it or be turned away. But when women beat the hell out of each other and there's blood and stuff, it's disgusting and off-putting to me. And the guys too, it's too brutal. The boxing, I don't have a problem with that because it's not as brutal. And I think it's just the gloves and stuff. I'm not trying to be a hypocrite here. How about you? Are you okay with the NHL players bringing back their legendary fist fights? I think it's a riot. Although just doing it to do it is pretty stupid. But you know what's funny? The refs watch it. They don't even do anything unless it gets really, 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 really bad. They're like watching it like it's a boxing match. It's so freaking hysterical to me. What are you doing? You're a ref. You're supposed to break it up, but not in hockey. Not in hockey. 800-288-WBAP is our number, 800-288-9227. And do you think MMA fighting gets too violent and nasty for you? What about boxing? Are these brutal sports to you, and does the brutality keep you from watching? 800-288-9227. Women in particular is the one I really have trouble with. I might be okay with regular boxing, but the MMA stuff. But look, I'm a massive fan of Dana White's. I'm a massive fan of the politics of it. I got no problem if you go to it and watch it. Just it's not been my flavor so far. And believe me, when Kid Rock shows up with Trump and Tucker, that was the best show of all time when Madison Square Garden MMA and they went nuts over him. I was going nuts watching them go nuts over it. I thought it was incredible. So great people, great audience, but I'm just a little bit, I don't know.